Hey everybody, Brava Chef Travis here, and today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect steak in your Brava. We're going to cover a number of different topics, from the starting temperature to using the temp sensor to selecting your perfect doneness using Brava's touchscreen. One of the most important things that I can tell you about cooking proteins in Brava is that you need to start with them cold, straight from the refrigerator. This is really important because it allows the protein to stay in the sear cycle a little bit longer, which is going to give you a better chance of getting a perfect sear. When you start something a little bit warmer, the internal temperature comes up a little bit faster, and it's going to end up temping out or being done faster than it would if you had started it cold. And by starting cold, we get longer time in the sear. The first step in making the perfect steak in Brava is to pat it dry with paper towels. This ensures that you're going to get a perfect sear. You can use your Brava tray with a paper towel on it, but just pop it on the tray. Pat it dry with a paper towel here. Now that's perfectly sufficient, but you could also pop this in the fridge for 5 minutes or so just to make it soak up any excess moisture. What that moisture will do is impede the sear, and so you want to make sure that you pat that steak dry. The next step is measuring the thickness of the steak. We actually have different recipe programs in Brava for different thicknesses. So what you want to do is take the temp sensor, which is also a measuring tool. You can see these different markings. The first one is 1 inch, and then it goes in half-inch increments. So I'm going to measure it this way. I like to get down and take a look at it at eye level. This one's about 2 inches thick, and let me show you that from a different angle. It's a little bit easier to see from this angle because you want to get your head down and kind of look at it like that. You can see this one's just under 2 inches thick on this side. This side actually is a little bit thicker. It's right at 2 inches, so I'm going to use the 2-inch measurement. Now that we've measured our steak, it's time to season it. I like to just use a little bit of salt. You could certainly use salt and pepper, but I think steaks are best when you keep it simple. I also like to season all sides of it. If you don't want that extra salt on the tray, you can very simply just shake it off. It's also important to note that I have put the thicker side on the left-hand side of the tray. The same thing applies for all individual sized proteins like chicken breast, chicken thighs, chicken drumsticks, steaks, pork chops, and salmon. Any kind of individual sized piece of meat, you're really going to want it started very, very cold. It's not as important when you're talking about larger cuts of meat like whole chickens or 3 to 4 pound pork loins. But for the individually sized proteins, we really want you to make sure that they're super, super cold when you start. You may have noticed that I didn't add any extra fat like oil or butter to the steak or to the tray. There's a reason for that. We actually found in testing Brava that we get the best sears when we don't add extra oil or fats to different meats like lamb, chicken, steak, or pork. However, that's different for seafood. We do want you to add a little bit of oil like butter or oil for seafoods like shrimp and salmon and thin fish. Now it's time to insert our temp sensor. You want to make sure that you're in the halfway mark. So if this is a 2-inch steak, the halfway point is going to be right here at 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make a mental note of where that spot is. And make sure when you insert the temp sensor that you insert it horizontally and you insert it all the way to the handle. Now it's time to go to Brava's touchscreen to select what you want to cook. There's a couple of ways to find it. First, you could go to the cook tile. And since we're cooking a New York steak today, I'm just going to go up to beef. And then you can search all of the different beef programs. And here we are. There's New York strip steak. The other way to find what you want to cook is to use the search tile. Here you just press on the search button. You can click up here and even type in NY, or you could type in New York, and there it is. So just select the ingredient that you want to cook, and it's going to give you all the details here. You can choose between 1 steak or 2 steaks for the New York strip, and it's going to show you exactly where to put it on the tray. So today we're cooking 1 steak. You want to make sure that you're going to work through all of the different tiles that are in the cook flow, especially the first few times that you cook this. Now, here I'm going to show you. This is asking you for your thickness. Now remember, we measured using the temp sensor and we know that it's 2 inches. So I'm going to select the large steak.
which tells you the thickness right here and generally the weights that are accompanied by it. The next step is to go in and select the doneness that you want. You can select anywhere from rare all the way to well done. I prefer medium rare. Here you'll see that we have some videos that can show you exactly how to insert the temp sensor. This here is a video that shows you how to connect the temp sensor to Brava. This tile here shows you where you should be placing the tray inside of Brava. And you can see here, it is giving me an indication that we need to be on the top shelf. You can see that little arrow pointing up and the tray is up on the top shelf. This final screen is your final checkpoint, but let's go ahead and insert the steak into Brava. Now it's time to connect the temp sensor inside Brava's chamber, which is very simple. That noise will let you know that it is connected. And then you just want to insert it into the proper shelf, making sure that you tuck the cord underneath the temp sensor guard here. Now that we've slid the tray into the proper shelf, this is your final checkpoint where it's going to tell you the thickness that you've selected, the temperature that you've selected, and confirming that the temp sensor is connected. All you need to do now is press that green button.
A lot of people ask us what to do when you're only cooking one piece of protein. This typically comes up in the combos when you're cooking 2 different ingredients and we call for 2 steaks or 2 chicken breasts. In that case, since we're using the temp sensor in those, just go ahead and use one piece. It'll be okay because the temp sensor is still going to tell Brava when to shut off. For other meats that don't use the temp sensor, we typically will indicate how many pieces you should be putting on the tray.
All right, our steak is done. First step is to open the door. Make sure you have a paper towel around your fingers to protect you from the heat. I like to just pull it out right there and then pull the whole tray out. Now you're going to want to remove the temp sensor and slice the steak. Look at that sear on the other side. Look at that, perfect medium rare right in the center.
Now you've seen how easy it is to make a perfect steak every single time in your Brava. We covered a bunch of tips, so let's go over those one more time. Make sure that you pat your steak dry with paper towels. That's going to help you with your sear. Make sure that the steak is cold, straight from the refrigerator. Make sure that you season it just before cooking with salt. Also make sure that you use the temp sensor as a measuring device. And then finally, last but not least, make sure that you insert that temp sensor horizontally straight through the center of the steak. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just email us at hello@brava.com.